Welcome back everybody to Lewis's Football Mind. I'm Lewis Hillis and today we have our Champions League quarter-final reaction. Tuesday and Wednesday delivered some unbelievable ties in the Champions League. Aston Villa 3, PSG 2. Villa just going out against PSG. PSG just having enough to get through in the end of the semi-finals. We saw Dortmund put up a really good fight against Barcelona, but in the end Barcelona just had that little bit too much from the first leg and Dortmund sadly crash out in the end. On the other side we have Inter versus Bayern 2-2 last night. Inter Milan going through 4-2 on aggregate, which brings an end to Thomas Muller's Champions League career at Bayern Munich, which is really sad. I'll talk a bit more about that in the video. And of course we have the big one, of course, Arsenal beating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu and progressing to the Champions League semi-final 5-1 on aggregate, absolutely demolishing the European holders. But let's get started with Tuesday night. We'll start with Aston Villa versus Paris Saint-Germain. The best tie from Tuesday. Really enjoy watching this game. Aston Villa sadly going out. I was rooting for Aston Villa, not because PSG beat Liverpool, but because it was great to see an English side like Aston Villa put up a really good fight against PSG, especially in that second half. Of course, 3-2. PSG getting 2 goals in the first half with Mendes and Hakimi, but Aston Villa put up a really good fight and Marcus Rashford was absolutely sensational. Something about Marcus Rashford against Paris Saint-Germain, it just works every single time. We saw what he did when he smashed that penalty in against them a few years ago. Of course, PSG were 2-0 up in the first leg a few years ago against Manchester United, and Manchester United going through, I think it was 3-1 in the second leg. Rashford scored a last-minute penalty to get them to the quarterfinals. I think that was 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but yeah, something about Marcus Rashford just works in the Champions League, to be honest, with against PSG. And we saw again, absolutely unbelievable performance by him. I'm not sure where he's going to end up next season, but it'll be really interesting to see where he ends up in the summer. Will he go back to Manchester United? Will he stay at Villa? I think that's the most likely outcome, that he'll stay at Aston Villa. I don't think he'll go back to Manchester United, but I've heard rumours that he is looking at other European clubs to try to get a move to in the summer. So it'll be really interesting to see where he goes in the summer. But what a performance by Marcus Rashford last night. Brilliant performance by John McGinn as well. I was surprised Emery took McGinn off, to be honest. I think that was one of the mistakes he made with the substitutions. I think McGinn was bossing that midfield. That's what PSG really struggled with in that second half. The physicality of Aston Villa's midfield. The likes of Rodgers and McGinn really physical in that midfield, and they were getting the better of PSG in that midfield, which we haven't heard much this season since when Arsenal beat them, really. When they were brilliant at the start of the season when Arsenal beat them, but now of course they're a different breed, to be honest with you. But we saw PSG's midfield struggle in that second half. But Villa, the only thing I would say about Villa, unbelievable effort, but it felt like after the third goal, they just lacked something. They just lacked a bit more creativity. They lacked a bit more creativity going forward, and they didn't create loads of chances after. Of course, the biggest one was that Maatsen volley at the end. The way he hit that, by the way, was unbelievable. A brilliant block by the young Pacho, who is definitely one of the best young centre-backs in Europe right now. A brilliant season by Pacho. Really good block as well. Unbelievable, to be honest. But Villa so close to going through and taking it to at least extra time. But the main story and moment in this tie was when it was in Paris and PSG scoring that third goal really late on. Nuno Mendes scoring a brilliant goal last week against Aston Villa at the Parc des Princes. That is the difference in this tie, in my opinion. If Aston Villa kept it 2-1, I would honestly back Villa to be in the semi-finals right now. And I would have backed them to take extra time, because 2-1 absolutely changes the whole narrative of the tie. 3-1, it was more about Villa coming back and putting a comeback on. 2-1, it's more about Villa getting a goal and actually competing with PSG and it being more end to end. So it would have been a completely different tie in the second leg if it was 2-1. But Aston Villa just going out, really unlucky by Villa, but they've proved that if they keep Emery as manager, that they will be back in Europe. If they keep the key players like Morgan Rogers, if they sign Rashford, they keep Watkins and McGinn and Asensio, etc. I think they need to improve defensively wise. I think that's the area where they need to get stronger. But what a performance by Aston Villa. They will 100% be back in the Champions League. I don't know if it'll be next season or not. Of course, the top 5 race is really, really tight. I do see them getting fifth, maybe. I do see them finishing above Chelsea, but the likes of Newcastle, Man City, Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, I think might just have a little bit too much against Aston Villa at the moment. But it'll be great to see Villa back in the Champions League. I'm really confident if they keep Emery as manager and the key players, they will be back. Maybe not next season, but definitely the season after. And it shows that they can compete in Europe. So really good effort by Aston Villa. They should be proud of the team, but I would be disappointed as well because they were really, really close. And they got PSG shook up in that second half. PSG were rattled and they were shaken. But Aston Villa narrowly going out, and PSG well worthy of going to the Champions League semi-finals, as they have been unbelievable this season. But let's go on to the other Tuesday tie. To be honest, I didn't watch it. I've seen the highlights, but brilliant by Guirassy. What a campaign he's had. Dortmund 3, Barcelona 1. Dortmund crashing out Barcelona, of course. That 4-0 lead in the first leg was just too big for Dortmund to come back from. Huge respect for Dortmund for the effort they put in, but in the end it just wasn't enough. But Guirassy giving us Mbappe 2022 World Cup final vibes, of course, scoring a hat-trick, getting the Man of the Match award, and just his face at the end broke everybody's heart because he has been unbelievable this season in a really, really poor Dortmund team. Dortmund have been awful this season. Of course, they sacked the manager a few months ago. I think it was like a month or so ago. Then got Niko Kovac. They've improved slightly under him, but not a lot really. And I think the 10th in the Bundesliga. They've been really, really poor this season. But Guirassy has been a shining light, to be honest. I think that was 12 or potentially 13 Champions League goals. I am going to check right now, because I'm not fully sure what it was. But what a campaign Guirassy's had in the Champions League. Brilliant. Serge Guirassy 13. More than Rafinha, Kane, Lewandowski, Martinez, Erling Haaland. Absolutely brilliant campaign by the Dortmund striker. Of course, moving to Dortmund. I believe it was from Stuttgart. So brilliant business from Dortmund as well. But will he get that big move? It'll be interesting to see if he gets that big European move in the summer. But Dortmund, of course, a big European club. But if they're not in the Champions League next year, which I don't think they will be, it will be very interesting to see if their key players will stay at the club or not. But Barcelona, unbelievable over in the first leg. Sorry about that. Second leg, they were really poor. First time I've seen Barcelona that poor this season, to be honest. And Dortmund really put a really good performance. But that offside trap by Barcelona, is absolutely crazy. We did it slightly under Jurgen Klopp. We played a really high line, but we didn't do it that much. It's absolutely crazy how many times Dortmund were caught offside. It's crazy, absolutely crazy the way they do it. It really, really is. But I respect it because most of the time it's worked. I think there's only been 1 or 2 occasions this season where maybe Koundé's not got his timings right, or Kabasi, for example, but he's unbelievable at 18. He's sensational, a generational centre back if he keeps up his form and consistency for the next few years. But Barcelona are the team to look out for 100%. They are favourites at the moment to win the Champions League, and no wonder. The strike force of Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal and Rafinha is the most dangerous front three in Europe right now, and absolutely sensational season from Barcelona, who are looking for a potential quadruple in the Copa del Rey final, top of La Liga, looking comfortable in La Liga as well, and of course a Champions League semi-final against Inter Milan coming up as well. So Barcelona could get that treble. They're third in their history, I believe. I think they got 2009 when they won the sextuple, 2015, and of course it could be 2025 as well. But Barcelona, really, really tough semi-final against Inter. We will do the semi-final preview in another video. I have done a short one on TikTok, so check that out as well. But Dortmund, brilliant effort, but sadly, I think it'll be the last time we'll see them in the Champions League for at least a year. I really hope they qualify for at least the Europa League, because Dortmund are a brilliant football club. Huge respect to them after the game as well. The social media team saying go on to win it to Barcelona. Huge respect to Dortmund, because what a football club they are. I'm going to Germany next month. Hopefully I'm going to get to the Signal and do their part as well. I don't think it'll be for a game. It'll probably be for a stadium tour, but still I can't wait for that. So mad respect for Dortmund for the effort they put in. They could have easily just gave up and folded and just let Barcelona just dictate the game and maybe like win 1-0 or something, but that is not the Borussia Dortmund way, and I have huge respect for them, of course. So good luck to Dortmund for the rest of the season. But Barcelona are Champions League semi-finalists after beating Dortmund on aggregate. So next up, Wednesday's game, we'll go Arsenal Real Madrid last, because that's the biggest game of the week. But we will go to Inter Milan versus Bayern Munich 2-2. Inter going through 4-2 on aggregate after a 2-1 win in the first leg. And what can I say? I said at the start of the season, Inter Milan will win the Champions League. That was my predictions. I didn't do a video for it. I should have, because I would look like a genius if I put it on video at the start of the season. But I did say Inter Milan will win the Champions League at the start of the season, and I'm going to back them all the way. Of course, I'll talk more about that in the Champions League semi-final preview video I'll do probably next week, so make sure you subscribe and like for that. But a really, really good performance over 2 legs for Inter Milan. Of course, Bayern fans are absolutely fuming at Benjamin Pavard celebrating against them. To be fair, I would be as well, because Benjamin Pavard without Bayern Munich, where would he be now? It would be interesting. That's all I'll say. But it's up to him, I suppose. I'm not going to scream at a player for celebrating. It's not something I would do, celebrate against a former club. But it's Benjamin Pavard's decision to celebrate, and in the end you have to respect it. But Inter Milan, of course, going to the Champions League semi-final, for me, in my opinion, the most underrated team in Europe. Not just this season, but the last few years. Of course, they got the 2023 Champions League final, which at the time surprised me, of course. But the way they've built under Inzaghi is absolutely unbelievable. It really, really is what they've done under Inzaghi. Of course, took over from Antonio Conte, who won the 2021 Scudetto, and Inzaghi has taken that to the next level. Bastoni, for me, is one of the best centre-backs in the world. People don't talk about enough. Jan Sommer is one of the best keepers in the world. Barella, for me, is the best player in Serie A. That might be controversial. It might not be, but Barella, for me, is the best player in Serie A, to be honest. And Turan and Martinez up front is absolutely golden chemistry. Martinez is one of the best strikers in the world. I feel like people in England have a false narrative around Martinez because of the World Cup, because he missed a lot of chances in the World Cup, but he's unbelievable. And I saw a video, when people aren't watching him, he's the best striker in the world. And I do agree with that, because most people were watching Arsenal Real Madrid last night. I was watching Arsenal Real Madrid last night, to be completely honest with you. But Martinez is absolutely sensational striker and a big part of Inter Milan's success. But Inzaghi, Inter Milan are so well drilled on Inzaghi, and in my opinion, they're going to go on to win the Champions League. I'm going to back them all the way, but I feel like there's a false narrative around Inter. People in England don't talk about them enough. People don't see them as a threat in Europe, which for me is ridiculous now. So good luck to Inter. But Bayern Munich, Harry Kane, I've never wanted a player who doesn't play for my club Liverpool to succeed and win a trophy more than Harry Kane, to be honest with you, because I absolutely love him. I think he's an unbelievable striker. It's just in those big games that he hasn't shown up in his career. But for me, I still feel like there is a narrative around Harry Kane that's really negative, to be honest with you. But another failure in the Champions League for Harry Kane. Quarterfinals this year, semi-finals last year. Of course, runner up with Tottenham in 2019 as well. But what a strike! I know he scored yesterday. It was a brilliant finish as well. I just feel really bad for him, to be honest, because it just hasn't happened for him in Europe. It just hasn't happened for him with the trophy cabinet. Of course, really difficult to win trophies at Tottenham, but for Bayern, of course, Leverkusen went on to win the Bundesliga and the DFB Pokal last year. Leipzig won the Super Cup in his first game as well. And then the Champions League this season, they're just not good enough yet, Bayern. I think it's an all-round team. They've got some brilliant players. Elise's been brilliant for Bayern. Kane's been brilliant since he's joined. Pavlovic has been really good. Upamecano's actually had a good season, even though I don't rate him that highly. I have to say he has had a good season. Kim and Jay struggled, to be fair. Of course, Neuer's injured as well. He's starting to go towards the end of his Bayern career, in my opinion. But let's talk about Thomas Müller really quickly. His last game for Bayern Munich in the Champions League. It might be the end of his Champions League career. Of course, a 2-time winner, a 4-time Champions League finalist as well. I absolutely love Thomas Müller so much. What an unbelievable footballer. His IQ in football and the way he reads spaces and finds those spaces is sensational. The most assists in Bundesliga history, 35 trophies in his career. I wish him all the best, and I hope to see him in the Champions League again next season for another European giant. I'm not sure where he'll end up. It'll be really interesting to see where he ends up, but good luck to Thomas Müller. But let's go on to the big one. Arsenal and Real Madrid. Remontada. Not happening today. Not happening. No third leg for Madrid. But Arsenal, absolutely sensational. I've done a video on YouTube. Go and check it out. But Arsenal were absolutely sensational. The first leg, sensational. The second leg, immaculate. Absolutely immaculate, that performance, because how difficult it is to win at the Bernabeu. It's ridiculously hard. We haven't done it in years. I can't remember the last time we've won at the Bernabeu. I just can't remember. But Arsenal's record against Real Madrid is brilliant. They've never lost against Real Madrid as well. Of course, the last time they played them was in 2006 with that iconic Thierry Henry shush. Bukayo Saka recreating it last night. Of course, the Panenka failed, but he redeemed himself like a world-class player does. Bukayo Saka is world-class. I have said it for at least a year now. Bukayo Saka is a world-class winger. One of the best in the world. Probably the best in the world behind Mohamed Salah, in my opinion. Lamine Yamal's up there as well. But I've always said Saka's better than Rodrigo, and people haven't agreed. But surely now they agree that Bukayo Saka is world class. The way he comes back from that failure at Panenka, Danny Carvajal giving it all that over at the tunnel at half time, and he goes on and shushes the Bernabeu and sends Arsenal to the semi-finals of the Champions League for only the third time in their history, which really surprised me when I read that stat last night. But honestly, I don't know what he was doing with the Panenka. Why not Panenka it in the middle of the goal? That's the only thing I would say. Fair enough trying it, but Panenka it to the side of the goal is a bit daft, to be honest. But the Panenka, you always Panenka it in the middle of the goal. That's what I would try to do anyway. But I'm not a professional footballer, but the way he redeemed himself is unbelievable. He's been out for, 3-4 months? And the way he came back and delivered for Arsenal is unbelievable. Other mentions, Lewis Skelly was immaculate. He owned the Bernabeu at, 18 years old he is? Unbelievable performance. The way he drifted into midfield and won fouls for his team is absolutely sensational. It really, really is. An unbelievable performance by Miles Lewis Skelly. Mikel Merino was immaculate as well. I think he got 2 assists as well. Brilliant ball to Martinelli at the end. And the way he read Saka's run was brilliant as well. And then, of course, Declan Rice. One of the best performances from an English midfielder over 2 legs I've ever seen in the Champions League. unbelievable. First leg, man of the match. I think he got man of the match last night, I believe. But absolutely immaculate by Declan Rice. He bossed that midfield against Jude Bellingham, Fede Valverde, Tchouaméni, then Modric when he came on as well. Also, one of the best performances from an English team I've ever seen in the Champions League. Over 2 legs. I think that performance last night is more impressive than the first leg, because winning at the Bernabeu and all this Real Madrid talk about remontada, coming back, we're gonna do it. Translating 90 minutes as long at the Bernabeu in like at least 20 different languages. Vinicius Junior saying tomorrow 9 p.m. On his Instagram story, and Arsenal just absolutely flatten all of that talk and get themselves through the Champions League semi-final. Absolutely unbelievable. I'm buzzing for them because I really wanted them to go through. I'm not saying I want them to win it. I don't want them to win it. Just, I don't know. But I did want them to beat Real Madrid, and they did it absolutely brilliantly. So well deserving Arsenal. Absolutely unbelievable performance. It would have been entertainment seeing Real Madrid come back, I will admit that, and then taking extra time whatsoever. But honestly, I'm buzzing for Arsenal. Well deserving. Arteta proving everybody wrong at the minute, and Arsenal without a striker could go on to win the Champions League. We'll talk about that in another video, but an unbelievable performance by Arsenal. Mikel Arteta deserves a round of applause. I'll give him one. Why not? What a performance. But Carlo Ancelotti's time at Real Madrid looks like it's going to be coming to an end after the Copa del Rey final next week. A really poor season for Real Madrid. It looks like it's going to be if they lose that Copa del Rey final. They could go trophy this season. Lost the Super Cup final, of course, out the Champions League. Don't look like they're going to win La Liga. And if they lose the Copa del Rey final, it looks like they will go trophyless. But what a night for Arsenal. Unbelievable. It was a joy to watch that game, to be honest. It was a joy to watch the first leg. But brilliant by Arsenal. I was good to see an English team in the semi-finals. But we'll end it there. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. See if we can get as many people as we can on the YouTube and Lewis's Football Mind community. I appreciate it. I'm Lewis Hillis, and I'll see you in the next video.